Welcome to the first video on tables. We're going to go over some of the cool filter and sort options and shortcuts that will help boost your efficiency with data analysis. Let's take a look at this spreadsheet, product sales data. And I have it set up where I have a product ID that I've sold to one of my customers on a certain date. And then I've put in a month formula to extract the month number from the date. So this month is 1 or January. And we sold 334 pieces of this product at a cost to us of $90.78. Then we marked it up to $161.94. And the total amount, which is the quantity times the price to the customer, is $54,000. So the first thing typically that you go ahead and do, you'd say, hey, I want to select the entire piece of data. So you'd start selecting over and down and drag all the way down. Then you realize that you have over 10,000 rows. So better than just going ahead and selecting with your cursor, I've been doing this a lot. You use Ctrl and Shift over to the right and it snaps all the way to the right, and then down, Ctrl Shift down, will then snap it all the way to the bottom. And from here, it's always a little annoying that you can't go back up and see the top headers. You're 11,000, 12,000 rows down. So to get back to that active cell, the very top where you started selecting, just hold Ctrl and Backspace and Excel will pop you back up to the top left where your first active cell was, which is this product ID. Now you can see what you're working with. You can see that you're still selected on your entire range. And you might be accustomed to first going into your data tab and hitting filters to toggle them on and off. But why waste your time with that when you can use the keyboard shortcut Ctrl+Shift+L? And so Ctrl+Shift+L does the same thing as toggling it on and off, as you can see here. And what I see most often with most beginners is they might say, oh, I want to sort the product ID, and they don't realize what these buttons do on the filters. Well, you have sort options here. It's much easier to see what you're sorting on when you apply the auto filters to your headers. And notice too that you don't need to select the entire sheet. You can just select across the top and then Ctrl+Shift+L to turn those auto filters on and off. Now let's take a look at this. So if I pop down the ribbon, Ctrl+F1, back in this data tab, you have right next to the filter, the sort button. I rarely use this sort button simply because there's so many more clicks that I have to do to tell it that I want to sort by product ID. I want to sort it on my values. Then I have to say that I want to sort it by largest to smallest and then hit OK. When I could have simply done the same thing by coming into the dropdown and saying largest to smallest. So in short, don't use this button when you have a table of data. Simply apply the auto filter either by selecting the top and hitting filter or using Ctrl+Shift+L to toggle them on and off. Then when they're toggled, you can do sorting or you can do filtering. Now within the filter options, check this out. So if you use the search bar, this is basically telling Excel to find any product ID that contains, say, 45. And you'll notice that Excel found, hey, this ends in 45, also this one, and this one. And then there's a 45 in the middle of this one. So Excel is finding that it contains that. What if we said, hey, well, I know it starts with 104, but I'm not quite sure what comes after that. Well, you could put a star. And so Excel would then say it has to begin with 104, and then after it, we're not sure what happens. Or you could simply say, hey, I know that there's 2 more characters, but I'm not sure what those 2 characters are. Therefore, limiting Excel to only looking for 2 more characters. There's not a 3rd character after it. So these are a couple tricks that most people don't know about, but you can type those right into this search field. Same thing when you come into the number filters, you can do the same thing by saying equals. And Excel really actually prompts you down here. You can use a question mark to represent any single character, or a star to represent any series of characters. These are what most people refer to as wildcards. Let's cancel that. Next, I want to look at how we can go ahead and quickly find our top 10 items in sales by going on our number filters here. This is what Excel already has built in and saying, hey, Excel, show me my top 10, or we could extend this to top 20 or top 5 items and say, show me those top 5, and here they are. Not in any particular order, simply come up here and say largest to smallest, and Excel will sort those. And by seeing me being able to quickly sort that, I hope a light bulb goes off and says, oh, that's why he doesn't want us to go ahead and use the sort button, because it takes so much longer than simply saying largest to smallest. Now, one thing to watch out for when you're using these auto filters, let me clear this filter real quick. You need to watch out for, what if I toggled this off and I accidentally only had through cost selected and I toggled it on and I wasn't paying attention and these two were not within the auto filter range? Well, if I went ahead and I sorted my data by largest to smallest, these two columns didn't sort, but these did, and therefore I lost all of the integrity in my worksheet. I'm going to undo that, so I'm going to hit Ctrl+Z so I don't have that sitting there like that. And now we're back to having it perfect again, and let's come on over here and put this on correctly. Ctrl+Shift+L and L again to get it all the way across. The last thing I want to talk about is what's going on with this advanced filter. And honestly, it's nothing spectacular. I think that you can do most of the things using these drop downs and filtering for what you need, and therefore it makes this advanced filter kind of obsolete. But let's quickly take a look at what it can do. So I'm going to insert 5 rows above here, Ctrl+Shift+, and I'm going to grab these headers and duplicate them right above here. Now, say I wanted to go ahead and filter just on this customer right here. So I'm going to copy this up here, and that will be my criteria. Now, when I use this advanced filter, Excel is going to give me a dialog box saying, what's my list range? Well, right now it's just selected on this header, but we really want to have it on the entire data set. So I'm going to hold here, Ctrl+Shift to the right, then Ctrl+Shift down to select the entire table, Ctrl+Backspace to bring me up to the top again so I can see what I'm looking at, hit this button to come back in, and then the criteria range of what am I going to run it on? Well, that's this. That's why I included all the headers again, and now I would just want to filter on this customer ID. And I'm going to come back out and then hit OK. And so Excel has now filtered my data below using this criteria. Now that's basically what it does. You can add more filters, you can add more rows. Just know that when you use this advanced filter on the criteria range, make sure that you're only selecting the rows that you need, meaning do not include a blank row because Excel now thinks that you don't want any filters on here. So if I hit OK, it's just going to show all of my data, and it's actually going to take a really long time for it to go through because I have 10,000 rows. So let's undo that, Ctrl+Z, and then let's just clear the filter, and let's get rid of these top rows, Ctrl-. And next, let's see how we can take this table and turn it into an Excel table.